Welcome back. So in this lesson we are going to style the projects page, and we are going to wrap them in the anchor tags. Okay, so by styling I mean just giving some sort of a background so that it doesn't look that bland. And then when you click on that project, it should take you to its relevant page where I can see all the information that I hold about this project in the database. And then we will do the code refactoring, okay? Because we are good developers and we are trying to adhere to the dry principles. Okay, so let's quickly start styling these projects. What I'll do, I'll go back to page projects. Okay, so we want to have a background on each project and we want to have a nice gutter going on. Now, Tailwind CSS isn't sort of like a fully fledged CSS framework where you get the grids and you get padding and the gutters out of box, but rather it's a low utility framework, CSS framework, where it gives you the building blocks and then you can do whatever you want with it. Okay, so what we will do here, I'm going to give it the negative margin. So we will start by giving it negative margin here, okay, on the X side. So that means left and right, horizontal, okay. And if I save this, come back, and you will see, yeah, okay. So that means that if I now give it a padding, so that should compensate for the negative margins there. Okay, and then we will just wrap it in, let's say, BG gray light. Okay, we want the items to flex and we want them to flex in flex column. Okay, what else? So for now let's just do that and bring this here. At the same time we are also thinking to have anchor tags, right? So in fact we can just put the anchor tag there and they will not go anywhere at the moment. Okay, and we will give it a class and we will say text black. We don't want any underlines. Okay, and let's just then quickly bring this here. Okay, so if we go back and have a look, so we've got that. What we could do here, we can say that give it a padding of 5, right? So we'll give it a padding around, so it looks a little more neater, and we'll give it a rounded class. And then here, we'll give it a rounded class as well. We'll give it a margin of bottom 5. And if we come back, yeah, that looks a bit better. Yeah, okay, not perfect, but we can live with it. So here, what we need to do, we need to get rid of this because we don't need it. And I'll say font would be the semi-bold, uppercase, text would be large, and text would be center. Okay, let's have a look. Yeah, that will be, yeah, that will do. Okay, so now that we are done with this, let's see how we can have permalinks. Okay, so if I come back to the projects controller, so projects, page projects, yep, and I can easily get the permalink by post permalink, passing in the project, and that should do the trick. So if I come back quickly and just put project permalink, if we come back and click now, it is taking us to the right page. So if you remember when we talked about the controller is getting tied to this endpoint, okay? And that means that if we come to our single, at the moment, obviously single dot blade.php is dealing with this request. So if we were to look into the get post type, let's see what sort of post type we get. Project. That means that I can go ahead and create single-project.blade.php, and that will then load up whenever somebody hits this URL, right? So when you click on any of these projects, single-projects.blade.php will load up. But if that doesn't happen, I mean, if the single-projects.blade.php doesn't exist, so according to WP hierarchy, it will then look for the single.php. If that doesn't exist, then index.php. Just a refresher on what we have already talked about in detail. Okay. So looks like we already have the single page, okay, and the convention that they are using is that as long as you can prefix the page with like content single hyphen get post type. So what we need to create is content single hyphen projects.blade.php, and we can actually get the content single.blade.php, and we can just change the name a little, so that will become project.blade.php, and that should do the trick. Okay, we don't need the footer. In fact, why not? We will leave the navigation. Okay, if we come back and refresh the page, so now we have content single projects.blade.php loading. So if I were to say, just for the sanity check, hello, that should appear here, and it does. Great stuff. Okay, so let's just remove this. We don't want that. Okay, and what we will do, we will just remove that. It will start with that. So here I can actually say get field. Oops. Name, and that should show up. Yeah, great. Remember, we also have the title in the backend. So if you look here, in here, we just gave it the title so that we can easily see here. Let's start working on that. So obviously we don't want to mix our view with the backend logic, so that we will go ahead and create a PHP class. So it will be controller, and we will call this single projects. Remember, it needs to be the same as your template. So we single project, and let's quickly go. We will extend controller, the Reusable controller. Okay, and here we will say public function project. If we come back and we do the debug, okay, so now we can see that the project is coming through from the single projects controller. Great stuff. Okay, so we are in good shape. Let me just remove that debug from there. Let's come here and let's start bringing in the fields. So what I could do, I could say return, and I will return it as an object. Okay, so we have name, that would be get field, and then it will be name. So you do need to pass in an ID, right, for the ACF, but because we are within the loop, we don't need to pass an ID if we don't want to. But just to be on the safe side, I will just say get the ID. Not the category ID, but get the ID. Okay. Great. And let's do it a few times. So then we have, if we look at the custom fields, we have URL case study. Okay. So let me just quickly do that. URL, and then we have case study. Right, okay, so if we now look into, we've got delivery solution, image, and the feedback. So we will call this delivery solution, and then this will become the feedback, and then we need the image. For image, I will leave that for now because we are going to tackle that in a way. If you remember, we have already done the logic in the page project controller, so we need to find a way that we can make that code reusable rather than copying and pasting. Okay, so now that we have the project available to us, and in fact this is not project but rather a project singular, and I can go ahead in the single blade.php, rather content single project.blade.php. Okay, now this will become project name. Okay, and then we will have an anchor tag which gives the URL, so it's not going to go anywhere for now, and we will say project URL. Okay, so if we come back and have a look, yeah, that's cool, so that's working. I'll remove this. Okay, so that would be the header. Here we are going to have a section. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up the single project so I can see the field. So in here, what we will do, we will basically say case study, right? And because the content is coming back as being done in the rich editor, so you don't have to wrap it in anything. So that means that whatever has come back, just don't do anything with it and output the variable. Okay, so what I will do is I'll just say project, and we call it case study. Okay, just going to copy that, and we will create another section. This will be for solution. Okay, and then we will paste another section. This will become testimonial. Okay, and this will become feedback. So if we come back, there we go. So it's all working. Okay, solution is not coming back, and that's because it's delivery solution. Okay, so if we refresh delivery, sorry about that, just need to spell it correctly. So delivery solution, and it's bringing it all back. That's cool. Okay, so let's just give it some classes. So that will be leading normal. Section will become class margin bottom of 5. And yeah, for now that should do the trick. margin bottom of 5. If we come back, yeah, that looks a bit okay to me. Great. But if we were to, rather than giving a margin bottom of 5, if we were to say bottom of maybe 8, and then we can give it a border bottom. So let's see. Yeah. Okay, so we could do that. And same here. In fact, we can also give it a margin bottom of 5 as well, because that way it will push the content down. Yep. Let's do and border B. Okay. What I will do is I'm just going to be lazy, copy that, and just paste it. Let's see. That looks good to me. Just that we need to get rid of the border bottom here, so it doesn't look weird. Yeah. Okay. That looks cool. And if we want it to, we can say class margin bottom of 5, and we can give it the same PB of 8 and border bottom, and that should look, yeah. Okay, great. So what we need to do now is bring in the image. Yeah, so let's have a look at controller. Looks like we need to know all of these fields along with this. Let's come back. I'll quickly create a function, and that will be called image. The reason I'm doing that is making it easier for myself, so that when we start refactoring, it will be much easier. I'm just going to paste everything here. Okay. And then we can basically start returning these values. Okay, we can go back quickly and just copy and paste. So if I were to copy these variables, come back and paste that in, and that should do the trick. And if you want to, again, you can cast it into the object. And now what we can do, we can say image, and this get image, and we will pass in the project. Oh, sorry, it will be get the ID. Okay, looks good. I will now come back here, and I'll just create a section here, and here we can say image source would be project, and remember we are now getting image, but the image itself is an object, so we need the URL. Okay, again this will become project, and then image, and that will become alt, and so forth with, and you can do the title as well, and you can do the caption and whatever you want. Okay, so that looks good. The only thing is, I believe if we look here, we are basically bringing in the medium image. Can you see here? So looks like we will accept a size, which by default will be medium, and then we don't have to create another variable, we just need to remove. Okay, and here we will say large. So if we come back, okay, that's cool. So we've got now this working. So if I look, do it agency, yep, that's working. Shift the eyes, I don't know why I named this shift the eyes, but there you go. And again, just to keep it a bit consistent, we'll give it a margin bottom of 5. Yeah. Okay, well, I am happy with the result. So everything is now configured, everything is working correctly. Projects are linked. You can come to the single page. So I believe now we will move on and we will make the code reusable by refactoring. Okay. So the first thing that I can think about is obviously the images, right? Looks like we are repeating ourselves in here. And if you look at the page project, yeah, so that's repeatable code. One way to do it would be, because we are using the PSR4 autoloading, I will just create a directory and I'll call it, you can call it whatever you want. I'll call it traits, or you can call it, I think in Sage community they call it components. But yeah, it's completely up to you. You don't have to call it components, you can just call it trait. In here I'll just create another class and I'll just name it trait. Okay, and I will call this trait. So usually, well, at least in the Laravel community, they just the suffix that they use for the trait is able, so image will become imageable. You know, that's again completely up to you. You can use, like, let's do image. Okay, and I am going to bring in that function that I made. So if I go there and if I take this and bring it here, okay, that means now I can get rid of this. And rather I can say use image, come back and see if that works. It does. But the cool thing is that now I can go ahead and also remove everything from here. Call this use image. Okay, and I will say image this get image, and it requires the project ID, so I'll just pass in the project, and the size will be medium anyway, so I don't have to pass anything in there, but we need to just adjust our code a little. So if I come to page projects now, okay, so all this will become now image thumb, and this will become image alt, this will become image title. Okay, come back and let's go back. Yep, all is working. But at least we've now we've taken the repeatable code, okay, and we have put it into a block of reusable code. And that's where, you know, these traits and everything comes very handy. Okay, working with advanced custom field is that common now that in the controller itself you have a method ACF. If you set it to true, so it will just automatically get all the ACF fields for you. Now I personally don't like that idea because that's just too much magic happening behind the scene. I like to be in control. So I would rather get the fields like this myself. So if anything is not working or if I need to debug, then it's easier for me. Okay. So I believe that's about it, about the code reusability. We extracted the logic from the views, so the views are now very much straightforward, and we put the logic in its controllers, right? So if you look here now, that looks all good. Okay. And by all means, you can actually get this query, and if you are to use this query somewhere else, or if you were to create, another custom type query for another custom post type, then you would basically create another trait if you want to put the query in that trait, and then you will have to adjust the name of the custom post type that you are trying to retrieve. Okay. So I believe that will be it for this project and for this lesson. In the next lesson, probably we'll talk about the container sage. We'll talk about the collections a bit, how that can help us, and a couple of other nifty tricks really that could help you or speed up your development. Okay, right, so I will see you all guys in the next lesson.